Test, test, test. Good afternoon, everyone. If we could all take your seats. And may I get the presenters to the stage?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to Oviedo's first ever inaugural Water Expo. I'm so glad to see that we've got a couple people from HOAs in here, water enthusiasts, a couple of council members. Right in the front row here, we have Council Member Alan Ott. Want to introduce members of our staff as well, and I'm going to goof this up. So we have our Director of Public Works, Bobby Wyatt, Alexis Stewart, our city engineer, sitting next to him over here. And I don't know if we should pass the mic, but I know we want to keep this moving, and we are starting a few minutes late. So without further ado, let's get our panel up here. We've got Deirdre Irwin from St. John's River Water Management District. Woo-hoo. Susan Davis. She's the Governmental Affairs Manager for St. John's River Water Management District. Then we've got Claire Mitchell, going to be joining us from Florida Friendly Landscape. She's the Florida Friendly Landscaping Manager. Jay Stainer, Oviedo's Water Conservation Coordinator, and Aqua Man. So if you have not seen the Aquaman videos, you are missing out. Come to our social media, Facebook, Instagram, City of Oviedo Administration, and look for Aquaman. And last, we have Dr. Heather Kalaman, Orange County Horticulture Agent. And without further ado, I will pass this off to all of you guys. I think we need one more mic up here.
Okay, is this working? Good. Thank you. So how we decided to do this, we have some information we want to share with you, and then we're sure you will have questions. So we're going to do about 10 minutes each on PowerPoints, and then we'll open it up for questions. And Susan Davis is going to be our moderator. So any questions before we get going? How excited are you? Good. It's a rainy day. The weather is cooperating. You can go. Yeah. Don't say that. It's going to be the best event of the week in Oviedo. Okay, so I work with St. John's River Water Management District. Sure. I work with the St. John's River Water Management District, and I work in the Bureau of Water Supply Planning, doing primarily water conservation for the Central Florida region. So we have a bit of a story to tell to explain what it is we're doing, why we care on a rainy day in the middle of September about using less water, because we have lots of water, right? We've got the lake out there, rainfall. But actually, we do have some constraints. Part of the messaging that's difficult in water conservation, especially for people who move here from the west or the southwest, is like, why do you have a water problem? You've got all of this rainfall, 52 inches, you've got lakes, rivers, springs, one of the most abundant aquifers in North America. Why are you even concerned? You've got lots of water. Well, it's because our traditional source of water is becoming constrained. And if Florida is going to continue to grow, we have to look at alternatives. So that is more or less the story I'm going to tell you. In Florida, decades ago, in my opinion, some very forward-looking legislators wrote into statute a requirement for water supply plans, which means the water management districts, all 5 of them, if there are observable constraints on surface water bodies like Wekiva Springs in this area, the water management district has to do this thing called a water supply plan. In that plan, you have to look at the current available supply, the demand looking into the future, 20 years into the future. You've got to look at the anticipated population growth, and then what alternatives are there to that traditional source of water, which is the Floridan aquifer. So this is not an easy week-long project, believe me. it can take 2 to 3 years to do all of the research, the data, and put this report together. So it's extremely time-consuming, extremely detailed, because we're talking about the future of communities 20 years out. So in my district, in St. John's, the entire district is now in water-constraint areas. We have 3 regions. We have the Central Florida region. Does this work? No. Central Florida region is these counties, Seminole, Lake, Orange, Polk, Osceola. And that region, interestingly, is shared with South Florida Water Management and Southwest. So just to make it more complicated, we're writing a plan for this region with 3 water management districts, DEP oversight, and FDACs, agriculture, they're involved, as well as many other stakeholders. We have just revised, I'll talk about that plan in a minute, the Central Florida East Coast CSEC region and the North Florida region, which is shared with Swanee River Water Management. Each of these regions are experiencing surface water constraints, whether it be the Ichitucknee, Santa Fe Spring Shed, Volusia Blue Springs, Wekiva Springs. We are seeing the impacts to surface water of overpumping. So these plans lay out a pathway to minimize or eliminate some of those constraints and continue to grow. So this CFWI region is about to publish the second 5-year renewal. Every 5 years we update these plans, and that will in December, November or December, be approved by the Water Management District boards. So if anyone is struggling with insomnia, we have a website for you. We have a report for you to read. So cfwiwater.org is a website just for CFWI. The draft updated report telling you in great detail what's going on with the region is there. It will become an adopted report by the districts November, December. And then the next step is local government comprehensive plans have to be amended to reflect what this report says, and facility work plans of utilities have to be amended to address where are they going to get their water from moving forward. So there's many moving parts to this whole strategy. In this CFWI region, which we're in here in Oviedo, surprise, surprise, we're going to see more growth. We're going to see increased water use, increased population in this region. That's not really a surprise. We know the region is growing rapidly. We have seen some of the growth be constrained over, and the belief is that a combination of reclaimed water and conservation have helped somewhat to slow the growth and the use of water. We need to see more of this, and this is all getting to the point that water conservation, as we move forward, is really essential. So what the report is going to say once it's finalized is that an increase of projected 96 million gallons per day cannot be met with fresh groundwater from the aquifer without significant impacts to minimum flows and levels surface water bodies. That's a really long name, but Wekiva. Just think about Wekiva Springs and all of the lakes surrounding that area. And it impacts, obviously, the wetlands, the groundwater quality. So we know there's a problem. It's official. Now we've got to move forward with solutions. You know, I had someone years ago told me, we're never going to run out of water in Florida. And I had such a hard time that she kept saying this. She's like, we're just running out of the cheap water. And that is true, really. We're running out of, the Floridan aquifer has been a blessing to us. And if anyone wants to see a really cool aquifer model over there at Seminole's table, they have a model demonstrating the layers of the aquifer. But it's been a very cheap source of clean water that we just, cities come to us for a permit, they pump it out, and they have it for their customers. These are pretty up-to-date prices from a very detailed report from South Florida. Reclaimed water is a little more expensive than obviously than aquifer water. Lower Floridan, that's the new salvation for many of our utilities who do not have other alternatives. They are putting in deeper wells to the lower Floridan aquifer, which is beneath the Floridan, and they are pumping from those. They're already going in. They're being used by many cities, especially in Lake County. Brackish groundwater, we're not seeing as much. I'm not as familiar with that source being really rapidly being adopted in this region. And then, of course, everyone asks about seawater. We're surrounded by seawater. It's not cheap. So the conversion of seawater to potable water is a process that revolves around a lot of, it's got a very high carbon footprint, cost of fossil fuels, so that's usually the very last option. In Tampa Bay, many years ago, they built a very large seawater reprocessing center. They have many sources. That is the last source they always go to. On average, it's 17 times more expensive than aquifer water. So it's there, but that might be a last option. But way over on the other side, you see water conservation. It's not free. We have costed out the cost of implementing a program, and if you go to any of these local government booths, these are not volunteers who do this for free, who deal with homeowners, do irrigation inspections. There is a cost to that. So just a little snapshot. This is not Oviedo. This is our entire district. A lot of people have misconceptions about who's actually using all this water. It's not the bottled water companies. 60% of water use that we issue permits for is to public water supply utilities, most of which goes to residents, to homeowners. We have agriculture, varies year to year on how much, and the new report will be out soon. In Oviedo, I'd say you're probably up at 3/4. 75% is utility water use, probably because it's a very residential community. So that's where our water is going. We publish this report every year. It's a very detailed report on our website, so you can see utility by utility who's using how much water. So it's you would probably put it in commercial, industrial. I remember once we did develop a pie chart with beverage companies, and it was like 0.1% of all the water we allocate. And that was beer too, and Pepsi. But the bottled water was less than half of that. So it really isn't a big contender. But people, they make assumptions that that's where all the water is going.
What is self-supply?
Wells, private wells. So a lot of communities, unincorporated Seminole and outside of Oviedo who are not on the utility supply have their own well. In rural areas of Lake Marion, Alachua, there are a lot of wells. It's still a small percentage. So water conservation, let me go back to that, is obviously why we're here today. It's a very viable alternative that can really help delay some of these more expensive alternative water supply projects. Our data, working with the University of Florida and the utilities, tell us that at least 50% of household water use is outdoors for irrigation. Not for your broccoli or your tomatoes, it's irrigating turf grass. If it's reclaimed water, we know from data from H2O Save at UF, it's about 70% of household use is used outside the home. Indoors, we've made leaps and bounds with more efficient toilet showers, faucets, and especially clothes washers and dishwashers with the Energy Star program are significantly more water efficient. So this is why we talk about irrigation. This is why Hunter is here, Rainbird is here, because for us, there are so many, the low-hanging fruit is irrigation water use. And it's raining, so go home and turn off your irrigation systems. Some of this historical data from Alachua County explains to us how and when this happened. Around 1995, we started seeing more and more homes being built with in-ground irrigation systems, automatic controllers, set it and forget it. That's the problem, because we set it and forget it. So we saw water use significantly increase. This could be repeated in any county in our district. More automatic systems, more water use. We have a program, not we, they have a program at UF called H2O Save that is partnering with many of the utilities in Central Florida. They've gathered lots and lots of data. And they did a calculation to see how much water are we using if we run the irrigation system one time. So this is a very conservative number. It is your small yard, obeying the rules, assuming it's efficient and you've no broken heads. You're using approximately 991 gallons every time you run your irrigation system. So if you take away nothing else from today, check your rain sensor. If your rain sensor works, you're skipping this many times during the summer. Those rain sensors only last about 2 years, and the Florida weather kind of decays them. So if nothing else, check your rain sensor. So the things we consider when we're talking about irrigation, we work with the irrigation industry, with the HOAs, with other organizations, cities and the like. We offer lots of training to the industry. Is you have to kind of have all these things. You need an efficient design, installation, you need to schedule it correctly, you need to do frequent maintenance. That's where our CAMs come in, maintaining those common area irrigation. And then occasionally update the system, put in new controllers, new heads. All of those things have to happen if we're going to save water. So it is somewhat of a complex problem. I love this slide, and I don't really have time for it, but I included it anyway. Your two takeaways. Check your rain sensor. Don't have sprays and rotors in the same zone. So sprays put down about 1.5 inches per hour. Rotors put out about 0.7 inches per hour. These are all the things that contribute to high water use. So if they're on the same zone, you run it for 20 minutes, sprays are done. They've put down the right amount of water. To get to 20 minutes, to get to half an inch, it takes 45 minutes with a rotor. So you're overwatering one area, underwatering another, constantly, for the life of the system, 25 years approximately. So that's one of the tips we give to homeowners a lot. The other is, everyone, it's like the bottled water. They love to blame the St. Augustine grass. That's what's wasting all the water. St. Augustine grass is not going in your garage and adjusting your controller. It can thrive with very little water. It can grow deeper roots, as can the other species. So it really doesn't need to be about the turfgrass species. You can train turfgrass to sustain on very little water. So I'm kind of removing barriers to being more efficient. A few resources, then I'm done. We have just launched a new HOA hub on our website. We've put all of our information in one place, and it's on the main menu. It says HOA resources. You can learn about stormwater ponds, conservation easements, irrigation efficiency, and our rebate program. Speaking of our rebate program, Craig McLean is right there. He manages our HOA rebate program. It's for cities and counties too, where we will partner with you to help you do irrigation controllers, micro-irrigation, more efficient heads, and HOAs can come straight to us without having to go through the city or whatever. So you can we have flyers over there, and you can speak to Craig about that. We also offer quarterly classes for HOAs and CAMs for anyone who wants to listen to me go on for an hour about irrigation. The next one is Wednesday the 8th of October, and it's a full hour of very detailed irrigation efficiency. And we have a lot of return visits. Gretchen, my colleague, coordinates that. We get a lot of CAMs come back again and again because there's a lot of information in that workshop. I actually had a very old, in my house when I lived in North Florida, I had pegs. Do you remember those controllers with the pegs? But it worked, so I never wanted to get rid of it. Then JEA, my utility, offered a rebate for a free smart controller, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. I'll get rid of my favorite old controller. And I was turning it on and off. I know I was being very efficient with it. When I got that smart controller, a Ratio is the one I chose to put in, There was a good YouTube video, and I installed it myself. I couldn't believe how little it watered. Times when I would have probably watered, it had predictive irrigation for using the weather underground weather system, and it really saved a lot of water. So what the JEA is finding since they launched that, they have hundreds of them out there now, they're seeing on average 30% water savings using smart controllers. And I shouldn't have said I got a ratio when I have Rainbird Hunter here, but you know, there was a sale, you know, what could I do? And I'm in a new house, so I'm open to options at this point. I need to get another one. So Seminole County covers some areas, unincorporated. Seminole might be some of your utilities, either virtually or in the room. They wanted to be sure I shared, they've got some rebate programs, they have an excellent irrigation inspection program, and they have a lot of services if you're in the county, not the city. So be sure to check your bill. Those colored areas are the unincorporated Seminole County where you might be located. And that's it. I tried to go 10 minutes, but I think I went over. Sorry. Heather?
Stand over here too so I can see. Hi, I'm Claire Mitchell. I'm the education manager in the state office for Florida Friendly Landscaping in Gainesville. Never been to Oviedo before, glad to be here. I'm going to talk with you about the Florida Friendly Landscaping program. I'm going to talk about some resources for HOA boards and property managers to save water in your communities. And we're also going to talk about some community success stories implementing Florida Friendly Landscaping. So first, why does this program exist? Florida Friendly Landscaping is a water quality and water conservation program. We are created to protect our state's greatest resource, and we are really blessed to have more the highest concentration of freshwater springs in the world, over 1,000 springs. We have the biggest aquifer in the United States. We have over 7,500 rivers and streams. We just have a lot of water. Oh, we have the second biggest coastline as well. And this program was created to protect these resources. We have a lot of threats to our water resources. As you can see, this is only a few of them, but all of these are related to pollution, water pollution, and using too much water. We need water for our economy. $92 billion were spent on tourism in Florida, and over half, I think it was $56 billion were spent at our coastlines. So what happens when our coastlines have red tide? We have fishing in our state, both recreational and commercial. That brings in, I think, another $20 billion. We have wildlife viewing. Did you know wildlife viewing brings in $5 billion annually to the state? I didn't know that. And then also agriculture needs fresh, clean water. So these are three huge industries in our state that rely on water. Water is also important for human health, as we know. Our drinking water comes from our aquifer, and pollution contributes to harmful algal blooms, which is harmful to humans and animals. All of the runoff from fertilizer that comes from your yard, it goes somewhere. It either goes into man-made water bodies or it goes into natural water bodies. That flows into the rivers and the oceans, and it creates harmful algal blooms that have neurotoxicity issues, respiration issues that cause it for people. So, your community can make a difference. As Deirdre said before, more than half of the water in residential homes goes outside. Potable water, watering our grass. It's not always potable water, but a lot of it is. And so that's why FFL exists. So what do? We educate Floridians to improve their landscapes. Our yards can look like anything. It can look like the most meticulous HOA. It can look like the craziest jungle. But we have 9 principles that we follow, and all of these principles help conserve water, use less fertilizer, and use fewer pesticides. We are, through the University of Florida, we cooperate with county extension in every county. So there is an extension agent in every single county that can answer any of your landscaping questions. Many of the counties have Florida-friendly landscaping agents. That's what they focus on. And so those agents, they also work with master gardeners who were trained to also educate the public on these issues. So our 9 principles. I had a lot of notes that I can't see right now, so I'm going to try to remember a lot of these 9 principles. I actually just started this job in November, so unlike Heather and my director over here, I'm still learning them, but I think I got a pretty good handle on it at this point. Right plant, right place. That's our most important principle. This is planning your yard to use plants that are drought tolerant and can thrive without a ton of fertilizer or pesticides. There are a lot of plants that we choose that just aren't suited to Florida and that don't do well here. So this is looking at your site conditions in your yard and matching the plants to match what you have in your yard, basically. Watering efficiently. This is going out, looking at your irrigation timer. Are you watering when it's raining? We were driving down here. We saw broken heads watering in the middle of the day during the rain. And so if their rain sensor was working, that irrigation wouldn't be on. If people had been maintaining their irrigation systems, we wouldn't have seen these giant sprays all over the place and spraying the roads, spraying fences, and not the landscapes. Fertilize appropriately. Get a soil test before you fertilize. Many plants, once they are established, don't need any more fertilizer, but people just fertilize because they think, oh, my plants need it, it's on a schedule, I gotta do it. Choose plants that don't need that fertilizer. All the fertilizer, not all of it, but a lot of that leaches either through the ground into the aquifer, pollutes the aquifer, or runs off on pavement and rushes into waterways. Mulch, you never thought about mulch, did you? If you mulch with 2 to 3 inches of mulch, Florida-friendly mulch, not cypress mulch, not rubber mulch, not gravel, you can really do a lot to improve your soil. It suppresses weeds, it retains moisture in the soil so you don't have to water as much. Attract wildlife. As we know, there's a ton of development in Florida. We're losing a lot of habitat, and you have the chance in your yard to welcome that wildlife back to your yard, whether that's providing nectar plants for pollinators, providing host plants for caterpillars, seeds and berries for birds, leaving some dead trees so that animals can make a habitat out of that. There are lots of opportunities to bring wildlife into your yard. Manage yard pest responsibly. Does anyone know about those like combination products like weed and feed? It's like you're going out, you're feeding your lawn, you're fertilizing your lawn. Well, you're also nuking your lawn for all of the bugs that live out there. And we don't want to do that because when you kill all of the beneficial insects, they take longer to reproduce. So what's going to reproduce first is all those little pests that are bothering all your plants, and they're not going to have any natural predators anymore. So we encourage people to spot treat their yards and use the least toxic chemicals first. Recycle yard waste. First way to do that is to create less yard waste, less pruning, let your plants take on a more natural shape. Recycle your grass in your yard. You can use it as mulch. You don't have to bag up all your leaves and send them away. You can put them as mulch around your house, things like that. You can also have a compost in your yard too. Reduce stormwater runoff. This is a really important one, and I think this one is, I think this might be one of the most important ones. Disconnect your downspouts to spray onto pavement or to run onto pavement. Catch the water that lands in your yard. The first flush is the first inch of water that basically runs off all the chemicals. And if you can trap that in your yard, you'll have vegetation that's filtering that water and keeping it in place instead of polluting our waterways. And finally, protect the waterfront. You have a beautiful lake here. And one of the best ways to protect the waterfront is to have a 10-foot buffer zone where you don't mow, you don't fertilize, and you don't use pesticides. You can also plant native aquatic plants around your lakes. That provides wildlife habitat, and it also helps increase filtration before all the pollutants get into the water. All right, 9 principles, did it. All right, so we have some resources for implementing FFL in your community and also as a homeowner. So are there any property managers in here or HOA board members? All right, good. Okay, well, we have a few. We're working on getting together more resources for you guys, but this is what we have now. The best place to start is probably the FFL Handbook for Home Landscapes. We have those available over here, also available on our website. Goes into the 9 principles a lot more in depth. We have a plant guide that is also, it's in print, but it's also an app. We have some other apps that help you pick out butterfly and bee gardens. You can basically search through those, figure out the site conditions in your yard. Are you looking for a tall tree or a ground cover? Are you looking for a perennial or an annual, a flowering plant, whatever? And you can search through our apps, and these are all Florida-friendly plants that have been reviewed by faculty to use less water and fewer inputs. We also have model code documents, model covenants for HOAs. We also have guidelines for architectural review. So if you're looking, that's where a lot of the tangible rules for landscaping are in an HOA community, and those are a little more easily updated. So we have some guidelines for landscaping rules, basically, that you can plug into your documents. We also have model landscape contracts. So you can change your wording in your landscaping, so when the landscaping guys come, that they're actually following FFL guidelines. We have checklists for hiring companies, and we also have lists of certified professionals, people who have gone through FFL training programs, and people who have been gone through the Green Industries Best Management Practices program.
Did I understand correctly that we have a model contract
Yes.
that suggest landscapers use?
Yes. So if you are looking to change landscaping companies, update your contract, or you're hiring a new contractor, you can visit our table. We also have an editable Word document on our website. You can just plug in your information there. Okay, finally, this is my last resources page. We offer continuing education units as well for community association managers. HOA board members are also going to have CEUs coming up, so we're looking into providing CEUs for them as well. There's a new law that was passed that requires stormwater systems to be inspected by trained professionals. You might run into that as well for your stormwater systems. We offer the training for inspectors to come out and inspect those systems. Oh, we also had a great list. Okay, even if you don't do that, I can't go back. Let's go back. Oh boy, all right, got it. Okay, there's a guide for aquatic plants too. If you have a pond in your community and you're like, what do I plant here? What's Florida friendly? Okay, we have a guide for ponds as well. Okay, so why implement FFL in your community? FFL landscapes save 83% more water. Normal, we'll say traditional yards, they have 75% grass and 25% turf. FFL yards are switched. Way more landscape areas, less turf. If you use these 9 principles, you can keep your ponds healthy, your ponds scummy, or all your fish dying. Okay, well, if you have that barrier, you plant native plants, you stop mowing and fertilizing around it, you can keep your ponds healthy using our principles. If you're in a position of authority or decision making in your HOA, you have a lot of, there's a lot resting on your shoulders. We are science-based, we offer science-based decision-making. So the decisions that you're making for your community aren't based on opinions or preferences. You can say, look, this is supported by science and this is why we should do it. FFL can also bring your neighbors together. You can work on, if there's been communities that have worked together on FFL projects, that maybe just a butterfly garden, maybe a pond cleanup, and is a really great way for neighbors to come together and make their communities better. Okay, the very last thing, we're going to talk about some communities that were updated with FFL, and I don't have any of the stats, I can't remember, but all these communities saved a bunch of money by doing FFL. So with this one, you can see they replaced their turf with ground cover and mulch. This one here, they increased the size of their landscaping beds, and you can also kind of see they let their plants take on a more natural form. So this is less pruning, less waste that they're creating. Also, I think this one might have changed out like annual plants to more perennial plants, so that's less money. This one definitely, they increased the size of their landscape beds. If you look at the top picture there, it used to be mostly turf, and then they made these landscape beds with micro irrigation. So instead of just irrigating all that turf, they have water-saving irrigation in the landscape beds. Okay, all right, so this, oh man, all right, there we go. We'll just do this one. Oh my Okay, this one, replace annual bed planting with hardy perennials. So instead of like annuals have to be replaced like 3 times a year, this is they plant them once and just maintain them. Okay, and this one, this is a really big one with FFL. This community was hurricane cutting their palms. That's where they just give it a teeny little mohawk and they leave it up top. They stopped doing that 1 time a year and saved $25,000. That's how much it was costing them to prune their palms. That's actually really bad for the palms. Like they make all their food from the sun. So if you take away their leaves, they can't make food. So don't do that. And this community saved like a ton of money just from the hurricane cuts. So your community can make a difference. Talk to us over here. We have all these resources available. Visit our website. They're also available there. Oh, okay, wait, here's our next step. The next step that you can take is take the pledge to save more water. You can go over there and join over 2,000 Floridians who have taken the pledge. You could also get your yard or your community recognized as FFL. We have a checklist. You can go through with an extension agent, and they'll go through and walk through and say yes, 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 and you get a flag to display in your yard. Okay, that's QR code for our website, also at our table. That's my contact information, also at our table, and thank you so much.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Jay Stainer. I'm the city's Water Conservation Coordinator with the city, and I'm here to show you that not only that we do practice what we preach, and that's the main goal here. Through education, through our city sites, through our city people that work here, we practice what we preach.
And we're going to stop hurricane cutting our palms, right, everybody?
That's right. All right. Is it going to, Patrick, is it going to play? Is it going to play? No, it didn't. I guess it, well, now it's gone. How'd it go back? The bottom one? I guess we didn't. Anyway, if you like, there's a video on YouTube called Aquaman. We go through the restrictions and when your watering days are for reclaim and also potable water. We do have 2 ordinances in place, one for potable and one for reclaim. We do allow our reclaimed water users to water 3 days a week per our ordinance, and we also allow our potable waters through St. John's. We follow their district rules twice a week in the summer and once a week in the winter. Now, we do enforcement, which shows a little bit on that video, but unique thing about our enforcement is the first one's a warning, and then the second one or third one, if we do fine you, when I wrote the ordinance years ago, I put in the ordinance that we actually take the fine and put it on your water bill. And what does that mean? That means if you don't pay the fine, you say, oh, heck with Jay, I wasn't watering that day, we shut your water off. And the money that we create for that goes back into our programs, which is pretty neat. Why are we here? Everybody's like the other speakers talked about, our aquifers are stressed. We have droughts, expansions, and alternative water sources are in need. And cheap groundwater, like everybody else already said, is not cheap anymore. So what do? We got to reduce, reuse, and recharge. One of our big programs here over the years has been implementing reclaimed water in the areas that are able to have reclaimed water. Demonstrate Florida-friendly city projects. Like I said, practice what we preach. Water-wise new construction. We're one of the strictest ordinances in the county for what we allow for irrigation and landscaping. I'll get to that here in a minute. Communication, water conservation success. Outreach programs, HOAs. The schools are great resources with our children. I teach at Haggerty and Oviedo High School about careers. There's a lot of water careers that are great that you don't need a college education for because great careers. And we start with the youngsters, we can work them up to within adults. We have incentive programs. I'm happy to say we're going to bring back our H2 Oviedo incentive program, which pays up to $1,000 to retrofit your lawn with the city. And participate in regional water alternative supplies like the other speakers talked about. That video's not there anymore. That was with Channel 9. Here's our reclaim, what water we saved from 2008 to 2025. It just shows you the reduced potable water to 100 gallons a day with reclaimed water per residence. And you can see the chart there of what we saved with the people that we did on reclaim. Like I said, practice what we preach. One of our parks over the years, Friendship Park, we put in the forever lawn, which requires no irrigation at all. And it's heat resistant. And if you can look at right there, the water savings from when they were watering 4,000 gallons every time they watered to reduce it down to less than 1,500 gallons and then finally down to nothing when they put the forever lawn in. And the kids liked it because it didn't, you know, when they cut it, didn't have the grass clippings on them and stuff like that. And it was heat resistant, which was great too. Also, when we built the gateways years ago, like I said, practice what we preach. We put in drip irrigation and plantings and no turf. On Oviedo Boulevard years ago, when Zoysia came out, everybody thought Zoysia, hey, Zoysia. So we said, let's do a test site. So on Oviedo Boulevard, what a better place to do it, right there in the mainstream of Oviedo Boulevard. So we put Zoysia down there, and that first year we had Taste of Oviedo. And all the vendors, and Zoysia is good for wear of trampling, but we come to find out that you can manage it just like St. Augustine, but it's not the fail-safe answer. We use Bahia turf unirrigated, which we found was the best around our ponds. Also, St. John's, I don't have that book anymore, but there's a lot of resources to get Florida-friendly water-wise landscape, which other presenters sing. Here's our code, and we actually reduced the high water zone. It's going to be 20% now. But as of right now, it's 30%. We only allow high water use zones. And what does that mean? That means any irrigation that has high water use would be turf. So if you have a permanent irrigation system, no matter what the turf is, we consider that a high water use zone. So we only allow 30% of the landscaped area to have turf. And residential, a lot of the builders, the way they're working with that is they're putting Zoysia or St. Augustine in the front for aesthetics, and from the rear of the house back, they're putting unirrigated Bahia and plantings in the front. So they're taking a typical 5-zone system in the city down to a 3-zone system, sometimes 2. Here's some samples of the old code and the new code. The old code there was one of the banks there by LA Fitness, and when Goodwill was built years ago, we did the Florida-friendly landscaping with also the new code, and you can see the difference. Here's residential, the old code, and then the new code with the Florida-friendly landscaping, traditional, all sod, and then the Florida-friendly landscaping.
We currently allow irrigation in backyards?
If it's a new ordinance, no irrigation is allowed in the backyard.
Okay, so
New construction residential. Yes. Also, like I said, we're bringing back the H2 Oviedo incentive program, identify water saving strategies, encourage redevelopment, and create water stewardships. That's what we're looking for here in the city, is create water stewards. We do a free water audit to everybody who applies for the program. We can do an irrigation tune-up if they have a company come out and check out for broken heads, valves that aren't working. We have a lot of homes in Oviedo that are 20-plus years and has the original irrigation systems. We also offer up to $1,000 for them to do retrofit their existing homes, like the one you saw in the picture earlier, to Florida-friendly landscaping. Now, they have to be in a potable water area, not a reclaim area, because reclaim is saving the water. We also do low-flow shower heads and toilet flappers. We have some shower heads in the back. Meet the conservation goal, you get an automatic $50 once you sign up for the program and do like a household retrofit. We automatically give you $50 if you meet your irrigation goals or meet your watering goals. Extra $50 if you exceed the goals by 10% or more of the guidelines we give you in the program. We also do up to a $250 value. A lot of residents don't have rain gauges, which are required by state statute. We'll install a free rain gauge. We won't install, but we'll help pay for the installation of a new rain gauge. Minor modifications also, like if you had a broken head or broken valves, that's wasting a lot of water. And also customize the schedules to make sure that they're watering correctly. Here's up to the $1,000. As you can see, the guidelines there, 50 square feet up to 2,000 square feet, 50% of the $1,000 for well or non-reclaim zones. So we do offer a $1,000 rebate for someone that's in a non-reclaim area for a well rebate program, because it still saves on our potable water, treated water. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. As of October 1st, when the new budget year comes in, it's going to be on our website. It's called the H2 Oviedo Incentive Program. There's a form you can fill out, and it'll come directly to me. If you'd like to do, if you're in a non-reclaimed area, and you're using potable water for irrigation, you can sign up for the well program. If you're using reclaim, yes, that does. You're already saving with the reclaim. And don't forget, reclaim also has nitrogen and phosphorus in it, so you can use less fertilizer. Here's some samples of people that were in the program. The first yard did Zoysia compared to their St. Augustine, which we're testing it, and the other yards did Florida Friendly. And they had a 40% savings and an average of 1 to 5 year payback on their retrofits. Here's some samples of the program that we did a few years back, and it just shows we did 14 landscape retrofits. Before, the water use was 2.8 million gallons. After the retrofits, we dropped it down to 1.7 million gallons. So we saved 1.1 million gallons, 41%, just by landscaping retrofit. The wells, we did 3 wells, 1.2 before the retrofits, brought it down to 368,580 uses now because it's just household uses, not irrigation. That was a 70% savings, over 800,000 gallons we put in a well in. And then the total was we had 17 people in the program, and we 4 million gallons before, after the improvements too, so we cut about in half the water use with just the retrofits. Which also helps your pocketbook also. So what's the Oviedo plan? Reclaim water as a save, yes. City facilitate demonstrations, practice what we preach, yes. New development codes, yes. We're actually going to get stricter now. We're going to be 20%. Converting existing home incentive, H2 Oviedo incentive program, yes. Interconnects, yes. Education, go to the schools, get the young people involved. And enforcement, that's the very last one. That's when I have to be the H2O patrol guy. We also do community involvement. We set up booths at Arbor Day, great day in the country, and Taste of Oviedo. I have a matching trailer, as you all saw my truck out front. We give away a lot of things for the community. There's a picture of the booth that was at Taste of Oviedo at the mall. Great events. If you ever have a chance to, when they come about, they're great events. A lot of good things that happens at those events. That's a lot of fun. And there's the truck and trailer that I have. And that's a little guy developed leaky pipes. I developed that for the kids at school. The little leaky pipe character. He's wanted. He's on the most wanted list. And that's it. Thank you. No, the homeowner can do it themselves. We just want to, they fill out the application and do it doesn't have to be an architectural drawing. I just don't want it on a Denny's napkin, but the homeowner could do a site survey and do an architectural drawing. So with the retrofit they're going to do, and we also want to keep the HOAs involved with the retrofits, just to make sure the architectural review board for the HOAs are on board with it. Because they might pick perennial peanut and they might want jasmine instead. But they, they can't stop us from doing Florida Friendly. We want to keep them in the loop of it. But the homeowner can do it themselves, yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Kalaman. I just wanted to start by thanking you all for being here today. Anytime I teach or lead programs or do workshops, I always like to thank everyone for showing up. There's a million places you could be right now, but you're here. Also, thank you to everyone joining us virtually. I'm an extension agent. I'm extension faculty with the University of Florida. I actually am the Florida Friendly Landscaping Agent in Orange County, so your neighbor just a hop, skip away. I'm filling in for Tina McIntyre, so she is your FFL agent here in Seminole County. As Claire stated earlier, she is on sabbatical right now, finishing her PhD, very important. So I'm happy to be here. I actually grew up in Seminole County, so yes, very excited to be here. Yeah. Big buttoning. Is there something we're pointing at, or? Okay. I did, yeah. I went to Sterling Park Elementary, South Seminole Middle, and then Lake Howell High School. Yeah. Okay, amazing. We're back on track. Okay, so really brief agenda. I'm only going to be talking for about 10 minutes. I was asked to talk a little bit about the Florida Statute 373.185, also known as the FFL statute. This can get a little bit confusing. Sometimes it's confusing even for us as faculty and agents. So I will briefly talk about that, and then I really want to focus on local resources for you, particularly through cooperative extension. Okay, so what is the Florida statute? How many of you guys have even heard of like the FFL statute? Okay, very nice. How do you guys, do you feel really well versed on it? Okay, like a deep understanding. I feel like mine's constantly evolving, and Claire and I talk about this a lot actually. So essentially what the issue was, why this came about, is that there were a lot of HOAs, community association managers in Florida, that can sometimes have, you know, relatively strict covenants or deeds, and people weren't always able to keep up with that level of aesthetics, whatever that may have looked like. So oftentimes these homeowners were faced with this dilemma of really costly efforts to resod their landscape. Maybe they couldn't afford to keep St. Augustine growing. Maybe they weren't able to keep up with the watering demands because of their local watering restrictions, or maybe they have like a really incredible large oak tree in their yard that casts a lot of shade, which is the most valuable resource after water, of course. So, you know, it's like, what do we do? How do we address this? So in an effort to address this, to conserve both water quality and quantity, the Florida legislature enacted the FFL statute, which essentially limits the ability of HOAs from prohibiting any type of water conserving or environmentally sustainable landscaping practices. Okay, so amazing, incredible. What does this actually mean though? So this is where it can get a little confusing sometimes. So essentially what this means is that an HOA can't really outright prohibit Florida-friendly landscaping practices or principles. That being said, any proposed landscape modifications really could still be required to have HOA board approval. Okay, so that's really important. An HOA architectural review board is still allowed at the end of the day to determine whether these proposed landscaping modifications are still aesthetically pleasing and whether they kind of fit the style of their community. This also applies to local government. I can't speak for Tina here in Seminole County, but I have definitely been involved in a handful of cases with City of Orlando code enforcement, for example, various residents who live in areas that don't have an HOA, they don't belong to an HOA, but there are still landscape ordinances that they are required to follow. So just because you think you're doing something FFL and code enforcement cites you for not mowing your lawn for 5 months or mulching your entire landscape because you don't want to grow turf anymore, it doesn't exactly work like that. So what does this actually mean? HOA boards can technically be challenged, right, if they are requiring landscape aesthetics that cannot realistically be met, right? So they can still be challenged, but sometimes homeowners' rights under this statute can be a little bit unclear. So it's important that we're having these conversations, and really at the end of the day, that we're leading with education, right? So as a faculty member of the University of Florida, I am an educator. So I'm always here to work with residents, I'm here to work with HOA boards, and really to try to get everyone on the same page with why these landscaping practices are so important, right? But I'm not here to interpret the law. And I find myself repeating that at least once or twice a month. But that's okay, I'm happy to be a part of the conversation. So when we talk about education, I do want to talk a little bit about extension. So what is cooperative extension? How many of you are familiar with cooperative extension or have been to the Seminole County Extension Office? Thank you, Erin. Okay, so a lot of opportunity here for new visitors. I love that. So essentially what Extension is, the University of Florida is what's called a land-grant university. So we have kind of three arms. We have a research component, we have professors who teach, and then we have extension. So essentially what my job is to go out and extend all of this science-based knowledge being generated by our researchers into our local community. Again, we are a partnership between local county government and the University of Florida, and we are located in all 67 counties across the state. So Seminole County obviously has a really incredible extension office, but every county in Florida also has a really incredible extension office. A lot of people, when they think of extension agents, historically speaking, they might think of like an agriculture agent who's gonna like come out and check on your row crops and your cattle. And we do have agents that do that, of course. But we have agents that also work in family consumer sciences. So they do a lot of workshop and classes on like money management, family nutrition. I am a horticulture agent. I work with both residential and commercial clientele. So green industry professionals, nurserymen and women, things like that. And then, of course, we do have Sea Grant agents that work closer to the coast, and our 4-H youth programming agents as well. So what do we do as extension agents? We teach a variety of classes and workshops throughout the year. Some of the audience for my classes include residents, of course, HOAs, community association managers, city planners, landscape architects, also, as I mentioned before, green industry professionals. We also advise or serve on various committees and boards as a horticulture agent, those which are focused on landscaping in particular. And we also partner with various local utilities to kind of guide various rebate programs. That's a very small taste of what we actually do on a daily basis, but just to give you an idea. So more specifically to Seminole County, I did kind of want to just get some updates from our extension office here locally that may interest you. So we do have in Seminole County a Fertilizing Appropriately campaign. This is countywide. It was started in 2017 and really focuses on water quality issues. So all the education that pertains to that goes through our local county extension office. We also have various composting bin giveaways throughout the year. So again, one of our Florida-friendly landscaping principles is recycling yard waste. So through various workshops and classes, there are opportunities to take composting bins home. Similarly, we also have rain barrel giveaways as well. So trying to capture more of that water on your own landscape so you can reduce your water cost and increase your water savings over time. We also have a really substantial reclaimed water program. This was a recent grant that the agent in Seminole County received earlier this year. So there's going to be a lot of programming and events focused on reclaimed water here locally in Seminole County. As we mentioned earlier, if you work with green industry professionals, our agents also teach a lot of classes for continuing education units. So those individuals can keep up with their pesticide and herbicide licensing. MGVs, we also have a very strong master gardener community in Seminole County. And if you're not familiar with who master gardener volunteers are, please come talk to me after. There's far too much to say about master gardener volunteers, but if you're interested in learning more about that program, please come see me afterwards. I would be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about what I do in Orange County as an agent. So again, classes, workshops, webinars, not only in my county, but across the state. I do teach green industry best management practices classes for green industry professionals. A lot of my programming really focuses on creating biodiverse landscapes is kind of at the end of the day where my initiatives lie. So I do a lot of classes on pollinator gardens, on Florida native landscaping, integrated pest management, and then I have a really comprehensive program on palms, if anyone's interested in learning more about palms. Palms dominate our landscapes here. They are not managed well most of the time. So this is actually a 4-hour workshop. You will get 3 CEUs, should you be interested in that. And we have snacks and coffee and outdoor demos. So that's actually next week, if anyone's interested in attending. And I also work with HOAs and CAMs. Most of those efforts have been through the H2O SAVE program that was mentioned earlier. I'm working with an HOA in Lake Nona right now, really focused more on installing smart irrigation, collecting data, and doing some education initiatives. Demonstration gardens. I really wanted to plug our demonstration gardens, both in Seminole and Orange County. All of our extension offices across the state, for the most part, do have a demonstration garden. So Seminole County has one on site at their office. I personally manage over 4 acres of demonstration gardens across Orange County, which is a lot. But our largest one is actually at our office in Orange County. It's located directly behind the building, so you can't see it from the road, but it is there. It is a 4-acre garden. We have 13 different themed gardens, vegetable garden, formal garden, rain garden, pollinator garden, things like that. It's totally free to visit. We're open 7 days a week, sunrise to sunset. And then we also offer guided garden tours every month. I also just recently in April installed a native pollinator garden at the Winter Park Library. So that's been really fun too. Highly encourage you to check it out. And we also have an FFL garden located in downtown Orlando at the Orange County Administration Building. So really, when it comes to demonstration gardens, I think this is one of the best ways to see FFL water saving practices in person. Not only can you learn more about plant diversity, maybe learn about some new plants you haven't seen at big box stores or nurseries, but really how to maintain and take care of those plants. The last thing I wanted to mention is our plant clinics. So we have one here at Seminole County Extension, Orange County Extension, most of our extension offices. These are run by our Master Gardener volunteers, so they go through a pretty extensive training program. It's entirely free to bring plant samples in if you feel like you have pest or disease issues, if you have questions about pruning, and our agents are pretty busy. This is an entirely free service. So these are the times that those are open, which is pretty much every day. I know what you're thinking. This is so incredible. How can I get involved? I've got you, no problem. So I have QR codes up here for, of course, Orange County, where I work, but also Seminole County as well. These go directly to our Eventbrite pages where all of our classes and upcoming workshops are posted. So definitely register through Eventbrite. You'll get email updates and things like that for things that, different classes that feel applicable to your interests. So that's all that I have today. My contact information is up there. I also have some cards if you guys have follow-up questions today or next week or next month. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Is it on? Yes, it's on now. Okay, thank you so much. That was a lot of information. It was fantastic. Thank you. So I want to open it up for questions. Does anyone have questions? Yeah.
Derek will be next. I got a few questions. First, in general, are all these presentations going to be shared with the emails on the sign-up sheet?
Yes.
That'd be great, because I wasn't able to capture everything. Deirdre, a question for you about tapping into the lower aquifer. What impact is that going to have on sinkholes?
I'm not aware that we've experienced any of those problems, because remember, this aquifer is beneath. It's not, in most places, not connected to the Floridan. It's completely underneath it, and please don't ask me how deep. I get asked that all the time, and it goes in one ear and out the other. 1,400 Okay, because I know it varies. In some areas it can be 1,000, but that would be probably pretty accurate. But the research that our scientists do on how much we withdraw from an area has sinkholes in mind.
Okay, so
And the typical areas that experience sinkholes, we see a lot more in Marion County, where the Floridan is closer up to the surface.
okay. So then the prevalence of sinkholes is taken into account with the overpumping.
Correct.
Okay. And then with the Florida-friendly landscaping, one of the issues I'm running into is not so much that I don't know what to put in, it's where do I get it? I'm having difficulty finding nurseries and landscapers that have access to Florida-friendly landscaping, and specifically native species. So do we have a resource on how to get these plants in larger quantities for like an HOA community to revamp the entire landscape?
Yikes.
You didn't
Yeah.
like that? No.
Yeah. I'm like, we have to shift the paradigm, right?
I mean, the one place I did find was a nursery called 4 Acre Farm, which is by the name very small. It's 4 acres. It's off Fort Christmas Road. So they can't, yeah, it's 4 acres. So they can't really supply
And
large
in
quantities.
Groveland, there's an excellent, huge native nursery. That's where I get mine from.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say 2 resources that I always include in my programs. If you're looking for native plants specifically, there's an organization called FAN, which is the Florida Association of Native Nurseries.
Okay.
So they have a really incredible website with like a plant search engine. So you can type in any native plant that you're looking for, and it will tell you which native nurseries locally carry it, the quantity that they have, the size if you're looking for 1 gallons, and then their contact information. I would always recommend calling them before you like drive out to Groveland, for example. That's Green Isle Nursery. Yeah. That's usually the native nursery that we get all of our native plants from.
Right.
If you're just not specifically focused on native, Bedrock's Plant Finder is also a really great website too. So you can, again, type in, it's like a search engine, anything that you're looking for, and it will tell you all the nurseries that come up. Mm-hmm. For my gardens, I do go to Lucas a lot. Not to like plug specific businesses, but Lucas is relatively close to us, and they do have a pretty good variety. But if it's large scale, I understand that can be a little cost prohibitive.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question for you, because I'm just moving through the panel here. The demonstration gardens, are you looking to expand, and are you looking for more sites for a demonstration garden? Because if so, I have an idea for you.
So,
yeah. Right over there, behind my house.
So, I just put the Winter Park Library Garden in April, and it is going really well. So I'm managing 3 gardens now, in addition to my actual job, which is teaching. So I'm not opposed to it. I think, as I mentioned before, it really is one of the best ways to kind of draw people in and say, like, what is that plant? I've never seen that before. It requires no irrigation, no fertilizer inputs after it's established. I'm always open to consulting or putting together like plant palette ideas and kind of going through what needs to take place as far as like soil testing, appropriate mulch. But I don't know if I'm looking for another garden to manage right now. Yeah.
In another county.
In another county, yeah.
And it has to be public property, right? It can't be on private
It does,
property.
yeah. So 2 of ours are in Orange County.
It's
one of
public
ours is
property.
like
Oh, it is.
City of Winter Park, yeah. Because I also rely on Master Gardener volunteers to maintain these gardens. Otherwise, it's like me going out there on a Tuesday and pulling weeds, which can be therapeutic sometimes, but I don't always have time to do that. So I'm interested to hear your idea.
Well, I've got a full packet I can email you so you can see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're working that actually right now.
Awesome.
And I wanted to say too, you had a question about like maintenance of who to do that. It seems like the landscape industry is hearing this need for people who are trained in managing these plants, installing them, and then after they're planted, taking care of them. So the industry is moving towards that way. I don't know if the demand has been totally filled. However, if you wanted to look up people who have at least been through our Florida Friendly Landscaping training, we have a list of certified professionals, and you can see if there are any in your county who have gone through the training. They might not be native plant experts, but they have gone through several hours and modules of learning about the 9 principles.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take all the help I can get. Lastly, Jay, you mentioned water stewards. Can you tell me a little bit more about that program, and who are you looking for? What's the requirements? What do they do?
The water stewards we're looking for, like our H2 Oviedo Center program. You get into the program, you become a water steward. We're looking for people to save water inside and outside the house. So I get calls every day of high water bills, and I try to take them from a high water user into a water steward.
Okay, so
It's just a term of just water savings, water steward, someone that's saving water.
okay, I understand that. All right, thank you.
And just to add to, I believe Florida Friendly Landscaping is not all about native plants, correct? So it's not just about native plants and where to find them at native plant nursery.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a native plant to thrive in the right place. So if you are interested in learning about just plants that do well in your area in general, we have free apps available. We have a QR code you can scan over there to learn more about them. And we also have publication of all of our plants that have been approved and vetted by faculty. The apps update, the book does not. So we are adding more plants. We hired a person that her whole job is to add more plants to the plant list. So you have a lot to choose from, native and exotics that do well in our landscapes.
There was mention of continuing ed for landscapers, and I was not aware that landscapers had to have any kind of credentials at all. Can you share what if any, those might be?
Yes, gladly. So if you're not managing your landscapes on your own, you're hiring professionals to do that, you want to make sure that they have appropriate licensure through our state regulatory agency, which is
Are you talking mowing a lawn? You have to have a license?
No.
Okay.
So you have to have a license to apply fertilizer in the state of Florida. So you get that through our Green Industry Best Management Practices class. So it's about a 6-hour class. There is an exam. We do lunch. I mean, most counties do lunch. We do lunch. And we cover a lot of different FFL principles throughout the day. So you have to have that license to apply fertilizer in the state of Florida.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And pesticides is a little different, but you also have to have a license for that too.
Hey guys, thanks for being here today. My name's Derek, and I'm with Keegan here, the president of our HOA, and I'm also the facilities manager at my church. So I have questions from both sides of that. You mentioned Florida-friendly mulch. You said what it wasn't. It's not rubber, and it's not cypress, and it's not rocks. What is it?
Yeah, so we have a variety of mulches that we recommend: pine bark, pine straw, melaleuca. Mixed utility mulch is okay, fallen leaves. We don't recommend cypress because we don't know that it's always harvested sustainably.
Right.
Rubber gets very hot, and rock also gets very hot. And those aren't living materials, so they don't break down and help build up your soil in terms of, helping to retain moisture and adding nutrients.
So if I had a bunch of trees cleared at our property and we had it all ground up into mulch, you consider that Florida-friendly mulch?
Yeah, I think as long as it's not like an invasive species, sometimes those can have weird plant chemicals in them. Sometimes that can be,
crap.
Yeah, like I've done chip drop before, like free mulch, I'm all for it. Sometimes with mixed utility mulch, there can be, like you don't really know what's been felled and chipped.
Right.
So just something to think
It's
about.
just stuff
that-
from our property, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely.
We use a groundwater well. This is at my church. Is the future of that, I mean, we've had issues with it already, of it cavitates because it can't get enough water and it doesn't work. I don't know, should I be investing in a deeper well, or am I giving up on the whole groundwater well? And a follow-up question to that is, are we limited on the days of week we can water out of a groundwater well?
Yeah, groundwater wells are just like utility water supply in terms of the rules. You do have to
Okay.
follow the 2 day and 1 day a week. In terms of your well, I think it might be sub our thresholds. Do you know how many inches?
Oh, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
not.
it's probably a
it's
4-inch
feet.
well.
No, it's feet.
No, I mean wide, the width.
Oh, yeah, 4 inch,
The
yeah.
diameter. So that probably didn't come to us for a permit. So I know they need maintenance over time. It might be worth getting
Yeah.
a well person to look at it.
They just told me.
And
I
the
need-
city wouldn't be upset if you sign up and get their water. You know,
Yeah.
pay the bill.
Yeah. We're trying to avoid that.
But maybe you can avail of Jay's rebate program too. Yeah.
Oh, great, that'll help. Is St. John's Water Management District working on desalination?
And no, not currently. We have in the past had conversations with some of our coastal utilities, but a lot of times when they do the math on the cost to
Yeah.
produce that water, there are other more cost-effective approaches.
You mentioned the 10-foot buffer zone on ponds, right? And this is kind of where we're thinking about the pond. What if the pond is sort of fluid? You know, it's got a rising and ebbing coastline, if you will.
So
Are
like
there,
kind of berms and swells and.
yeah, are there
Yeah.
guidelines on that? I mean, because I watched the guys cut it today, and they give it 0 buffer zone. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if you're selecting species that we know perform well on shorelines, thinking in terms of like semi-aquatic or even super drought tolerant plants, because there is so much fluctuation there with the amount of water that's present, you shouldn't really have to worry about that once those are established. And that's particularly true of
But
native plants.
Would we be allowed to go more than 10 feet?
How do you mean?
Somebody's going to come around and chop it all down?
Well, I think if you're working on removing plants or even installing things on a shoreline, I do believe you have to pull permits through DEP for that. Is kind of my understanding.
I think if it's on a stormwater pond, we encourage the planting of littoral plants. I've been involved in some of those projects in my community in North Florida, and you have to work with your maintenance company so they don't whack all your
Yeah, the
weeds.
city's maintenance.
So they think they're just weeds and mow them
Yeah.
all down. So we put flagging up around ours, and they grow really fast. But in terms of the elevation of the water, there's maybe high, medium, and low. You might want to look at what your medium water level is and look at putting, depending on the species, around that area. So, and the other thing we did was test sites. We did some pilot testing of different species we had 103 ponds to work with, and that really made a difference. So we could learn about where to put these plants.
Right. Okay.
If you visit our table, we have a list of aquatic plants that are Florida friendly, so you can look those up as well. So
Okay.
it'll be over there.
Cool. A request, sort of, maybe. I think our HOA is on board with Florida Friendly, but not all the homeowners are, right? The homeowner wants a St. Augustine front yard, come hell or high water, or no water, right? And so we replant them and water the crap out of them, and they die again. How do you convince the public that this is good for them? And our request might be, could you do like at our next HOA board meeting, send somebody to come to do a 10-minute juice up the troops pitch.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's what it's about, right? Is kind of creating not to send people into like hysteria, but sharing information that we've all learned today and saying, hey, you know, we are facing a water crisis. This is why this is so important. So we lead with education. So yeah, I do give talks to HOAs. Typically, it's usually the HOA board that I need to convince.
Yeah, you're talking to the choir, right?
Yeah.
We need you to talk to the congregation.
So it's hard, right? It's like shifting kind of like what our landscaping objectives have historically been and kind of what they need to look like in the future. And I think that all comes down to, if you don't care about water in terms of conservation or, you know, from an ecological perspective, that's one thing, but this is how much it's going to cost you in the future.
Positioning it in terms of cost helps people get on board. Right. So, but all I'm saying is, could we get like a 10-minute speaker for 10 minutes?
I mean, I'll definitely touch base with the agents in Seminole County and, you know, see what can be arranged.
Okay, do you have like a card?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jay, you mentioned there was this new code, right, about...
It's not a new code, it's been in place for a while, but...
How long? When was that put in effect?
2007? It's been a while, 2007, I think.
Oh, okay, so
it's
quite
been
a
in
while.
place for a while.
Okay.
Another question about the Florida Friendly, is your common areas of the HOA? I can't remember, Keegan, are they, I know you're incorporating Florida Friendly there, right?
We're working on it.
Because if you show the residents, hey, the common areas of our development are Florida Friendly, look at how nice it looks, and look how easy it's to maintain, we're saving water, we'd like to incorporate that into your little area in front of your townhouse.
Yeah, well, technically, our whole property is common area.
Is it common area?
Yeah. It's
Then I would think that you'd be able to change it without a homeowner putting up.
It's just, that's the other problem. They're like, when I grew up in New York, and I got these kind of bushes, and these are the greatest, so I better have them, right? Yeah. Okay. We've had an issue off and on with reclaimed water, right, with our supply. What's the future of reclaimed in Oviedo?
Well, the issue with reclaimed water is supply and demand, okay? Our plant can only produce so much that we have reclaimed, and we have an interconnect with Seminole County. But when we've had these severe droughts recently, we haven't had the rainfall like we normally have had. Even our interconnect with Seminole County, they don't have the water. So if we can't get it from Seminole County Iron Bridge, if our plant can't produce it, it becomes an issue of supply and demand. Also, we try to enforce people playing by the same rules. You know, we allow the 3 days, but then we try to cut it back to 2 days when we're in a drought. And if one neighbor sees someone watering and it's not their day, I didn't get water on my day, I'm gonna water on your day. So kind of, that comes into play too. But we're trying to work on a supply and demand issue.
I mean, we've had a lot of damage to our landscaping because of the lack of supply. And, you know, so we really need to make some hard decisions about what to do. And if we can depend on the supply, then we'll make it one kind of decision. And if we can't, then we need to make another. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
And I can't guarantee 100% you're gonna have,
And
you
then-
know,
and
it
then-
depends on supply and demand.
All right, last question. I'm sorry for hogging the mic, but I was just like really paying attention. Is there somebody we could hire? So I don't have a crap ton of money, it's my church, right? But I'm trying to do a bunch of this Florida-friendly landscaping at our church, and I got some volunteers, but really, I need somebody I can dig holes and get dirty. And is there somebody we could hire? And then if we want to hire somebody for our HOA too, right? That come in and do a area, and, you know, so is there somebody we could hire?
Specifically, I don't know anyone here, but we have that list that I mentioned before of the Florida Friendly Landscaping Professionals who have gone through the training. And you can look up and see by county who is available in your county and who has gone through that training.
You have like a list or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Come see us.
Cool beans.
It's on our website for people who are not here physically. Oh, drop it.
And Regarding the supply issue, if you are exploring other options, I don't know what the situation is with all your stormwater ponds. Some communities have switched over and used their pond water for irrigation, and that's called rainwater harvest. Okay, doesn't have a pond. Do they want a pond? No.
I had one more comment too. As far as like changing perceptions of aesthetics, this is where the yard recognition program could be a benefit, is that you put FFL principles into practice in a yard that matches the aesthetic of your HOA, because it has to, because you have your architectural review guidelines that everyone has to follow. But there's wiggle room within that. So instead of having the 75% turf, 25% landscape beds, you can switch that. You can put Florida-friendly landscaping plants in there and then get it recognized, and you have the flag there that says this is a Florida-friendly landscape. So when you are trying to show people this is what it looks like, it can look like anything depending on what your personal tastes are. But if you can have this yard or these common areas with the flag displayed, that's a observable change that people can say, oh yeah, I can do this in my yard.
I'm over here. Hi, so I'm also part of an HOA that has quite a bit of common area. And I'm a water guzzler, according to the mayor, so I have quite a bit of landscaping. It's overwhelming, and I came in the middle of the expo here. So it's overwhelming because we have quite a bit of common area that's watered officially, legally, by a well. In order to, we would need help, as the gentleman over here said. How do we not do like patches, because some of our homeowners had said, great, this area over here is not growing, I'm just going to take it out and put in Florida friendly. I have a 50-page document that our property manager gave me for what is legal, what's not legal. You need to do covenant changes, you can do rules. Are we going to get a copy of this presentation so that what is a common, aesthetically pleasing landscape front yard look like? What's the norm that's also fiscally responsible, because we have big yards? And to start putting in Florida friendly, it requires a landscape architect to help, but maybe you have examples of how to do that. Is it 40%? Is it 30%? Is it 20%? What would be impactful to when we can convince people to start changing their landscape, and what would be generally reasonably priced in order to accomplish that goal?
I worked with my large community of 5,000 homes, 103 stormwater ponds, acres of conservation easements, and we had the same issue. It was an aging system, bad irrigation system, way too much turf. And we formed a maintenance committee. We hired an irrigation consultant because we wanted to tackle our $25,000 per month irrigation bill with JEA. And we divided the community into regions or phases, and we just took it bit by bit with what was affordable for retrofitting. So we took out turf where we could. We planted some native trees and shrubs, just palmetto and pine. Cheap. It was pretty cheap, and took entire stretches of turf out of irrigation, put in micro irrigation. Then we started adding smart controllers. We just did it piece by piece with a committee and hiring experts. But you're right, it's not cheap. We had a half a mile of roadway, and that was going to be $100,000 to retrofit. So we didn't do that project. But we added smart controllers to bring the water use down, to save money, and then just slowly, if turf died, it became a bed.
Well, we're only 105 homes, and we have a 22-acre conservation area that we also need to maintain,
Yep.
which takes up $40,000 that we're trying to do. So are there any grants or
Yeah, I mentioned that in my presentation. I have a card over there at the St. John's table. We
Wonderful,
have some
thank you.
funding for HOAs to help.
Any other questions?
Aside from events like this, how are you spreading the word about these programs to HOAs and homeowners? Is it through the utilities, or is it just kind of by chance?
If a utility has a permit with us, a consumptive use permit, they have a requirement to do what's called a water conservation plan. An entire section of that plan is about public outreach. So everything Jay is doing is making sure that the city is in compliance with their consumptive use permit with us, their code, irrigation restriction enforcement, public outreach, social media, all of that. So that's one way we do it. And then in addition, we do have our webinars specifically for the HOA CAM audience. And we attend the HOA Expo at the Orange County Convention twice a year. So we're everywhere. But the thing is, you think everybody must know this stuff by now. I've been telling everybody. But there's new people moving to Florida all the time. So we try to choose unique audiences, not go to all the nature festivals because we're speaking to the choir. But if there's an event at a soccer tournament, we're there because you cannot get those parents anywhere else. So, choosing your unique audiences helps.
I'll also add to, I know agents in Seminole County work with individuals specifically with like the City of Sanford, City of Oviedo. I do the same thing in Orange County. I work with City of Winter Park, City of Orlando. So those can be really powerful partnerships too, just because they often have a larger voice than we do as cooperative extension. But as Deirdre mentioned, social media, various listservs, we're constantly trying to be out in the community.
So I don't actually have another question for you. I actually wanted to talk about the feeling of being overwhelmed by trying to transfer over to Florida Friendly. I totally get it. What I wanted to tell you though is that you mentioned hiring a landscape architect and going on and down this road of hiring all these other people and how expensive it is. Just to give you perhaps another overwhelming tool, but it is a tool that is very useful. I developed an entire landscape plan using ChatGPT. It is amazing how quickly and easily you can use AI to develop this, and it's not nearly as hard as you would think it would be. Absolutely, I would. Yes, it's an amazing tool. I've emailed Deirdre, and during this expo, I emailed Dr. Kallman the output from that tool. And Megan, I believe you were mentioned at one point an AI outreach type of program. At some point, we talked about that.
Yes, but I should probably tell everybody.
Here you go.
This
Okay,
sounds terrifying.
So, no, this is fantastic. So there are some University of Florida students who have been so inspired by, over the summer, hearing about the things we've been doing here, working on the Water Expo, that they have got about 15 GIS students together, and they have already spoken to the Seminole County property appraiser to start importing different layers of data. So they're hoping to import, whether you have a pool from property records, figure out how many square feet your yard is, how much of that is the footprint of a building, so you can figure out how much yard remains. And then they are going to put a layer of how much water, how much drinking water comes in, and you'll be able to figure out how many inches of water are you applying to your yard. And I think that's it's something that Keegan had done on a, like a micro level by hand, I think, for some of the common areas at HOAs here in Oviedo. And to be able to do that citywide and tell people, you're using this much. And if the answer is you're using more than 4 inches and you have a St. Augustine yard, everybody up here knows you're using too much, right? So yeah, that's on the way. They think that they're going to be able to figure out how to do it by December. So thank you, everybody, for tolerating all of this enthusiasm, because it has spread to people up in Gainesville who are, some of them obviously are from here.
Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today, and thank you, Megan, for putting this on. I guess I have a question about water conservation outside of Oviedo. So Oviedo has its area, and then if you have a private well or you have, you get your drinking water in septic tanks, is there help for them? Is there a problem with their wells, potentially with the upper aquifer?
Well, we have Keely from Seminole County here. So for unincorporated Seminole County, where they provide water, she has a lot of resources. But then in terms of private wells, we have Yelin from the University of Florida, who's been working on a program too for people with septics and wells to provide resources to them. Do you want to say a few words, Yelin? Oh. Yeah, they do come to us for permits. They have to do water conservation plans. They do not have the staff that a city or a utility has. It can be very challenging. So I've spent a lot of time with their HOAs, usually large yards, lots of grass, very old, poorly performing irrigation systems. That's why we added HOAs to our funding, so they could come straight to us without having to go through another entity to get help. So we're trying, but that is a challenging segment. Small segment, but challenging for sure. Yelin, do you want to just give a quick update on the great program you have, just so folks are aware?
Thank you, Deirdre, for mentioning our program. Just to let everyone know, for extension, we also have a program. It's for private well user and septic system users. So like most extension programs, our primary goal is to educate private well and septic system users the best practice to maintain their systems and how we can protect our groundwater together. We have a website, actually. We have 2 websites. The link might be a little bit hard to find, but if you search UF-IFAS wells or UF-IFAS septic systems, it will direct you to our website where we house all the educational materials. Thank you.
So are we wrapping up our questions and answers, and then do you
Well,
have anything more
before
to say
we
for the
wrap
panelists?
up, if I could just say real quick, I want to thank Rainbird and Hunter for coming here today. They are the experts in smart irrigation controllers, smart irrigation systems. They've supported our programs. We also teach a class for the industry, landscape and irrigation industry, all-day classes called Florida Water Star AP, and they've supported us for 15 years in providing lunches, being there on the site, providing education for the industry so they become trained also. So I wanted to thank them specifically for coming, as well as everybody else who joined us from the other entities.
Any final words from the panelists, or let them loose and
just
and
keep
go to the
talking to
vendors?
us. You've got the
Yes.
resources, the tools. We want to hear from HOAs. You know, Florida's going to have more and more HOAs who are not expected to be experts in any of this, but we are seeking every opportunity to speak with them and provide resources.
Ditto. Come visit us at our tables. I don't really have anything else to add. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, thank you. Yeah, please visit the tables. Yes.